Hello everyone. In my last video I showed you how I was making the Carol Laws book page snippet papers, just collaging papers over multiple book pages. This is the one I'd started to show you how I do it, and I went ahead and finished that just using 2 book pages. Then at the end of the video I had cut out a tag and was explaining that tag I probably would not use as it came cut out. Started recording again, and yet again I forgot to hit the record button. So the camera and I are having communication issues right now. Primarily me not hitting the record button. Anyway, so the one I had originally cut out is over on my other table drying, but all I did was I gessoed over it. So I cut out another one real quick and show you. Now I'm just using an old rewards card, and as I've previously explained, but didn't record, with the gesso, I'm not necessarily trying to make these papers or their designs or even their colors go away. I'm just trying to knock them back a bit so that they're more muted. And the gesso certainly does that. Now you can apply the gesso, you don't have to do it with the card. I like the card because I tend to get a smoother coverage than I do with paintbrush. I don't have the brush strokes and stuff. Now, you will sometimes have card lines that you kind of have to work out. But, okay, so I've got the gesso on it. So now I'm going to let that dry, and while that's drying, I'm going to wash off my card, and I'll be back in just a moment. I'm back, and both my gessoed tags are dry. And the next thing I'm going to do is do some stamping on them. I'm going to start with my Stampers Anonymous fragments. And which one? Let's try this one. And I'm going to be using archival ink in coffee. It's not very dark, and I'm not even going to put it on a block because I'm going to be doing just random stamping. This ink is not very dark, but again, I'm more just building up, knocking back the original background and building up sort of a new background. Again, not trying to get rid of the background entirely, just trying to push it back some. Okay, I like that. I think I'll just do one at a time to make it easier on myself. And here I've got text. I couldn't even tell you what stamp this is off. I pulled it off it came on a block, and I had pulled it off. All right, so let's just Same thing, I've got some music notes here. I need to see which way it goes. That way. Same thing, I pulled it off its wood block. Okay. So that's it for that. And now, the last thing I'm going to do and as you can see, or at least I hope you can still see the background, but it's not nearly as prominent as it was. Actually, I think I'll let that one dry for a second. The gesso acts as well, it does two things, and I meant to mention this earlier. You know, when I initially collaged these, I just used a Nuhu glue stick. The gesso also acts as a glue, so if there were any loose corners or anything, the gesso helps take care of that. But it also acts as a barrier, which means this ink is not seeping down. This is when the ink hits straight paper, it's pretty instantaneously dry. Sitting on top of gesso, it may take a second or two to dry, and I just want to give it that opportunity before I go on to my next step. So I think while I'm giving that a minute, I love these fragments stamps are probably my favorite background stamps. Finish stamping this off. Doesn't matter to me that it's getting lighter as it goes. Okay. And do a little text again. Get it upside down that time. And I'm just using 3 different stamps just to give a little variety, because I'm not trying to, like I said, I'm not trying to replace the picture, and I'm not trying to make it, I'm just trying to add a little, each stamp adds a little different texture. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do on that one. But as I was saying, I love my fragment stamps. If you're new to crafting or to junk journaling and to making things like this, if you're going to start buying stamps, I honestly would work first on getting stamps you can use as background stamps. I have so many that oh, it's a cute bird, or it's a cute pretty flower, or but 9 times out of 10, I go back to my background stamps. Those are the ones I use most often. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just using my Distress ink. I'm going to try some peeled paint on this. And my blending tool. And I'm just going to go around. And basically, I am recoloring the entire tag. Again, it's not that you can't see the background, because you certainly, the original background, because you certainly can. But I'm pushing back the original colors, not making them disappear, but pushing them farther to the background. And that's really it. That's all it takes. Now, if you wanted darker, let me show you why I used the copy. I was playing with these yesterday. I did this one using the coffee colored ink and old paper, I think was the distress ink that I used over the top. Here I used black archival ink and wild honey distress. And you can use black, and that would work perfectly well for something. I prefer, though, I think for the most part, I prefer the lighter. The black is a little starker than I want it to be. If I really wanted the image to stand out, I'd use black. But for doing something like this, I think I prefer something lighter, like the coffee. I'm sure there are other colors that work just fine. I don't have a huge selection of archival inks, but I like this. So then all you have to do, then your tag is, this tag for me is much more usable. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and taking some little bit of vintage photo around the edges. Just to darken them a little bit. And I'm ready to start decorating. I'd already kind of gone through and picked a couple of things I think I might use. This is an image from, a digital image from Tsunami Rose. I think I'd like that, but around these corners. And ink this up a bit. I apologize if I'm getting out of frame. I'm trying to stay in frame, but normally I naturally hold stuff a little closer to myself. Okay, so I like that. And I think that peeled paint that I put over, that kind of pulls out that butterfly a little bit. So I like that. And let's see, I've got some, where? I've got some Tracy Fox labels. Let's see if there's, got like something a little, kind of like that. And let's see, I happen to have this sitting right next to me. Let's see if that does anything for it. Let's get that down. Get everything down a bit. Yeah, I kind of like that. So, that piece of fabric behind there just gives a little added texture. So I'm going to ink up around that frame. And where's my... Pull that off, pull that off. Put just a touch of Fabri-Tac behind this. It's such an open weave, I don't want to use a lot, just enough to hold it. Of course, it actually helps if the Fabri-Tac is leaving the bottle. Alright, where's my dry? Alright, if you need a blotting tool, I guess for lack of a better word, I don't know how I figured this out, how I discovered it, but inevitably I pull out a wet wipe to, wipe my hands off, wipe my glass mat off, whatever. And then I would set it aside and come back the next day, and it makes it's dry, of course, but it makes such a wonderful little blotting tool and stuff. Better, I think better than a paper towel, because it doesn't shred as easily, so you don't end up having to pick little bits of paper towel out of whatever you're working on. Okay. Enough chatting, let's move on. Now I'm just gonna glue all the way around the edges of my butterfly. Try to get that centerish and straightish. I virtually never use the word centered or straight, because for me there really is no such thing in my world. Okay, and little label. And we've got a tag. And that tag I will use. It's a little more muted, so I could use it in any number of journals. And in essence, we went from this, well, this to this. Actually, was it off that one, or was it off? Nope, it was off of this one, which is the brightest one. There we go. So, This method also works great if you've got what I'm going to call unusable scrapbook paper that is just a scrapbook page that you don't know what you were thinking, or you loved everything in the pad, but this one sheet that you just can't stand. This exact same method of putting the gesso down and then stamping on it and inking on it, again, does not get rid of the background, but it pushes it way back. If I look closely enough, I can still see the music in there. I can still see that there is pattern and color. I can tell that there is pink behind there and a little bit of blue there. But it's so far pushed back that it doesn't clash anymore. And so the gesso, along with the peeled paint and the coffee archival ink, just kind of brought it all together. Anyway, so that's it for now. And I hope this helps you. Okay, so I tried to end the video before I had actually finished the tag. I had most of it done, but now I've sewn around it, put a page reinforcer, a hole reinforcer on it, and put a little trim on it. And then I'd also forgotten I had some other tags, so I finished those as well. This is another one. Same thing. It's got the collaged background. So I decorated that and sewed around it. And then these were the two that I'd actually made yesterday, or started them, and got those finished up. You'll see here I got some gesso on my backing papers on these, which was no big deal. I grunged up the back using my vintage photo, which knocked back the white of the gesso, and they're perfectly fine. So those are the tags, all made with collaged paper that started out looking like this, but through the use of the gesso, stamping, and inking, now look like this. Anyway, so that's it for now. That's one way to use your either collage paper or scrapbook paper that you don't particularly care for. It's a good way to change up the background and make it more usable for yourself. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've tried this. I'm sure a lot of you have. And I will talk to you soon, and happy crafting. Bye-bye.